Ian is an accomplished author, speaker, and employee retention expert. He's served 2 decades as a business coach, and his ACTS method of engagement has helped executives reduce turnover by more than 50% in 12 months or less. I hear a lot of gasps, right? And that's an important issue, obviously, in today's environment, retention. Ian is the founder of both the SB Dream Coach and the Employee Retention Group. He's transformed leaders in 30 industries across 40 states and globally in countries like China and Saudi Arabia. Ian has shared stages with renowned speakers and appreciates his business administration degree. He's also a servant leader, serving more than a decade in ministry, including leading the Evangel Ministries Economic Restoration Group. Ian's mission is to build businesses that bless the world. Please help me welcome Ian Watts.
Thank you. Good morning. It is truly an honor to be among such an amazing group of leaders. To Jeffrey, thank you so much for your commitment to the mission. To Teresa and Mary Lynn, thank you so much for your leadership and planning excellence. To the CBRT board members, roundtable speakers, sponsors, and everyone who had a hand in making today possible, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and serve, and thank you for your commitment. Please, one more round of applause for all of the leaders. I'd like to begin by asking a question. How many of you today are interested in more than just information, but you'd like to learn some information that will be transformative in your life immediately? By show of hands, how many of you guys are interested in that? Now, let me ask another question, slightly more difficult. How many of you are willing to be uncomfortable to experience that level of transformation? Oh, same number of hands. Oh, this is fantastic. Okay, so since some of you are already standing, the exercise has already began. Do me a favor, we're going to do a little exercise, and if it doesn't go well, we're just going to blame Teresa. But I think it'll go well, but if not, again, we can blame her. So please stand with me. Now, if for whatever reason, those of you may not want to stand. If you have some back issues, no, on a serious note, even if you have any physical challenges that may prevent you from standing, you'll still be able to do this while you sit. Can I have just one volunteer, because I need someone to be a countdown volunteer for me, just 15 seconds, by show of hands, one volunteer. Don't be so shy. Okay, way in the back. What's your name? Way in the back? Brooke. Okay, Brooke, I need you to be really loud. So when I say on your marks, get set, go, you're going to count down from 15 seconds. And then once you get down to 1, you say time. All right? You got it? All right. Now, for the rest of us, here's what I want you to do. Make sure you have a little bit of room. I want you to spread your legs shoulder length apart. Now, there are 2 conditions. If we want to maximize the potential of us applying what we learn, 2 conditions for us to learn, and we have to be both focused and alert. The easiest way to change our minds is not actually with our minds, it's with our bodies. So that's what we're doing right now. If you're wondering what in the world is going on, we just want to change our state. So here's what I need you guys to do. Shoulder length apart, one leg in front of the other. I need you to imagine for me that we are in the Olympics just a few months back, right? And here's the problem. We're in the 4x100 relay. We're on the last leg of the journey, and we're in second place, unfortunately. We have France to our right. We have Jamaica to our left. We hate them both. I'm joking. We don't hate them. But we do want to win. So when I say on your marks, get set, go, we are going for the gold. Now listen, your teammates are relying upon you, and no pressure, but the entire country is wanting for you to take home the gold. And we got to overtake Jamaica, who we hate, but we don't hate. You guys got it? So when I say on your marks, get set, go, I want you, don't move your legs. You're just going to pump your arms as hard as you can. Don't move your legs. Nobody run. We're going to run in place without moving our legs, but pump your arms as hard as you can. So you ready back in the back? You ready for me? All right. When I say on your marks, get set, go, we're going for the gold. Then count down. Start the countdown. All right. On your marks, get set, go. Pump those arms. Keep going. Come on. Almost there. Time. Okay, we won. We won. Give yourselves a round of applause. We got it. We got the victory. Okay, you guys can be seated. Thank you for being such good sports. Oh, my goodness. Wonderful. Listen, again, if that didn't go well, I was just going to blame Teresa. So today we're going to be talking about how to attract and retain the next generation of leaders. Just a bit about me. You've heard some of it, but I have had the privilege. God has been faithful. I've been able to work with clients in almost 45 states. I think it's actually 50 now, but almost 50 states, I believe, in over 30 countries. I believe that some of the greatest breakthroughs in one industry don't actually happen in that industry. It happens outside of that industry. So heretofore, I have been industry agnostic. So I've worked with over 30 different industries. I've had the privilege of working with leaders in over 30 different countries. And that number right there, I've been able to recruit. Now the number is approaching 400 team members. But the most instructive thing that I want to share is not actually on this screen. The reason that I launched the Employee Retention Group is because I have codified what has allowed me to have team members that have never left. So whether I was in for-profit business or serving in a ministry where I had 30 people under my leadership, God has been so faithful, and I've had the wonderful privilege of nobody ever leaving. And it's not because I'm so special. It's because my people knew how special they were to me. And that's going to be instructive, a point that I'm going to come back to. All right. So just to share a little bit more about me, you've heard that it's my mission to build businesses to bless the world, but I like to share how that crystallized. I was born and raised on the east side of Detroit, and in many ways, my story is a familiar one to not all, but many boys and girls that grew up in urban areas. My father was in prison. My mother, my brother, who's 4 years my senior, and we grew up poor. We were on welfare. As a matter of fact, we lived on less than $580 per month. So as you can imagine, I wanted to get as far and as fast away from that reality as possible. And I saw entrepreneurship as my way out. Not only did I want to succeed in being a successful entrepreneur, I had a vision to become a millionaire, and I wanted to get there by the age of 30, right? Because money was the answer to all the issues. That was the foolishness that I thought at the time. But I was able to actually achieve my goal 4 years ahead of my dream. Now, the problem is that I got good at learning how to do deals. I didn't understand that there's a bold and distinct difference between doing deals versus building a sustainable and scalable business. So interestingly, in 2006, when I'm on my first international missions trip in Uganda, Africa, I'm finding out that the bottom is falling completely out of my business. My wife and I jokingly say that 06 was a good year because it was in 2006, the last quarter, that I was on a mission trip, learning that the bottom was falling out of my business. I had 6 close deaths in the family, and my wife became deathly ill with the birth of our first daughter. So it was a difficult time, but it was through that time that God really began to deal with my heart, and he really reshaped my thinking. He framed my thinking around the importance of doing everything to his glory. Whether I eat or drink, whether we eat or we drink, it's all for his glory. So he let me know business wasn't the problem. It's just that I needed to build businesses for his glory. That's how my story crystallized into this mission, which is to build businesses to bless the world. And I'm going to come back to that in just a bit. Now, enough about me. This is for you if you are interested and you want to eliminate the pain, the frustration of costly turnover and high recruiting costs. This is also for you if you want employees who feel just like this guy. How many of you guys want to be this guy? Don't you want to be excited? If you want a team of stark, raving fans just like this guy, today is for you. I love it. Let's just look at him for a minute. So here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the big problem of both turnover and recruiting. We're going to talk about what is the real cause, and I believe you guys may find this a bit unusual and perhaps something that you haven't heard before. We're going to give a one-word solution to the problem of turnover. We're going to talk about the single greatest talent recruiting tool that we all have in our companies. And then we're going to talk about, I'm going to give you a framework to actually apply this in your business. So we want to make it tremendously practical. And before I leave, I know that I'm going to be moving quickly. I don't want to frustrate any of you. You don't have to take notes fast and furiously. I'm going to give you a copy of my slides. So before I close and open up for questions, I'll pause for a brief survey, allow you guys to tell me how badly this presentation sucked. And then right then, you won't have to wait. There's a link that you'll have for the slides right at the end of the survey. Fair enough? Okay. Let me begin by painting a picture of where we are now. This may seem bleak, but I want you to appreciate this fact that winter is here. From a recruiting and a retention standpoint, winter is here. Now, there are two different approaches that you can have to a winter season. One is you can lament that it's here. You can go outside not properly dressed and you can freeze to death. It's one solution. I don't recommend it. But you can also not lament that it's here. You can prepare or dress appropriately, and you can go outside and you can learn to ski. Now, if some of you guys say maybe I'm past my skiing age, that's fine. You can still have a snowball fight. Doesn't matter your age. But we have to make sure we reframe our thinking so that we can see the opportunity no matter what season we're in. We have to make sure that we can challenge ourselves to not be delusional, but we don't want to make the season worse than what it is. We want to see it accurately. So this is not to scare you, but we want to talk about what the challenges are so that we can address them properly. There is indeed a war for talent. Now, did you guys ever play with those? I had my assistant put this together. I love the little green army guys. I love it. We were talking about this earlier. By 2030, all baby boomers will be at least 65. Many of them are transitioning out of the workforce, and they are taking much of the institutional knowledge that they have with them. You're going to see some more stats and find out that much of that institutional knowledge is simply going to be lost. Here's why. 2.4 million manufacturing jobs will have gone unfulfilled, right? 3 out of 4 leaders are reporting this is the most difficult season in 16 years for them to recruit. So there is a war for talent. Make no mistake about it. In 2022, the turnover rate increased, look at this, by 20% across industries. By 2026, here's what's interesting, 1.2 million STEM workers will be missing in action. So there's going to be a tremendous fight that you have. Yes, you can put a job ad out and you can get a whole lot of people that more than likely may not be qualified for the roles that you need. But you need to make sure that you appreciate where we are. So I wanted to make sure we took a dive into the challenge. Now, here's one that's going to make you sleep really, really well at night. When you lay your head on your pillow at night, I want you to think about how exciting it is that half of your people are actively looking, not just passively receiving messages from headhunters on LinkedIn. They're actively looking for another place. The people that you love, the people that you have labored with. I found this shocking. But across industries, this holds true. And the beautiful thing is this, don't take my word for it. It is easier than ever to get these stats immediately with AI. So winter is here. There is a war for talent, and we need to make sure that we are equipped to deal with these challenges. All right. Do I have any HR professionals in the room? Do these stats look familiar at all when you consider the cost of turnover? It is costing between 100 and 400% of the salary of our workers. That is the expense with turnover. So not only is it a challenge to recruit our people, we need to make sure that we keep our people so that we can have this money that you're paying to recruit and keep your folks, reinvest it so that you can grow your business. Now, many of us have probably heard that high engagement equals EBITDA, right? When you think of engagement, between recruiting and retention is this magical word called engagement. And there are 3 words here in this definition that I want you to pay attention to. As you consider your people, you want them to be enthusiastic, you want them to show great commitment, and you want them to be involved. If you have those 3 components, you have someone who is highly engaged. Let's talk about how profitable this is. 21% greater profitability for people who are enthusiastic, people who are committed, and people who are involved. Not just that, 70% less incidents. Now, this is particularly important, especially as you consider jobs that are more dangerous, manufacturing, just to name one. 41% lower absenteeism. Your people are actually showing up. And again, they're not just showing up, they're showing up with enthusiasm, with a deep sense of commitment, and they're involved. Next, approximately 60% less turnover, simply by having higher engagement with our people, right? And finally, 20% sales increase. So engagement is profitable. Knowing that fact, what is the challenge? The challenge that so many people have, leaders in particular, is that they don't really understand what the real issue is. And if you don't understand the real issue, we were sitting at our table talking about stuff and things. It is easy to mistake activity for productivity. We can get busy doing stuff and things. We hear that engagement equals EBITDA, so let's roll out a bunch of engagement practices. But if you don't know the end goal, the big problem that people run into is that they don't understand what they're shooting for with their engagement aims. So what is it? What is the real cause of high turnover and lack of retention? Here's where I think it may get interesting for many of you. The real challenge with keeping our people and recruiting new people is actually neglect. Retention is so low, recruiting costs are so high because we have neglected what is most important. What is that? We've neglected our people's three greatest needs. When we begin to treat people as only a collective, right? And I understand it's important for us to view many of our people as a part of a team. I understand that. But we have to understand that it's individuals that make up our actual teams. So we have to address the individual challenges that our people are facing. What are those issues? The first one is this. We have to make sure that we are cognizant of the mental health needs and psychological challenges that our people are having. We are facing a mental health crisis. Anxiety is up. Depression is up. Drug use is up. Suicide is up. We were already trending downward, and that was before COVID exacerbated this. This is something that is affecting our people and our people's people, and we have to be aware of that. So we have to make sure that we are addressing their mental health needs. Think about this. How would you like to, as a business owner, invest $1 and get almost $4 back? That's what Deloitte found. For every dollar invested, you're getting back $3.70 if you are investing in the mental health of your people. Does that make sense? Next, these are often coupled. Not only do we need to address the mental health needs of our people, we have to also address the emotional needs of our people. Here's an interesting stat. 15 more sick days per person that your people who are less engaged, people whose needs we're not meeting, than those who are. Now, here's what Harvard says. Just by addressing this, you're going to have a 25% reduction in turnover. So, addressing not just the mental health needs, but the emotional needs of our people is extremely important. Additionally, we can't just address the mental health needs. We also have to address the emotional needs. And finally, we have to address the spiritual needs of our people. Our people need to make a connection, a deep connection between what they do and who they have been uniquely created to be. And the stats bear this out as well. People who have a deep sense of purpose, they're 42% more likely to be engaged, right, on their job, and they're going to outperform their peers. So helping people to understand their spiritual needs is extremely important. So what's the real solution? The problem is people are aiming at their own targets. We understand now that the end goal of having great employee engagement practices is that we have to address what we have been neglecting. So what is the one-word solution? I submit that the end goal of addressing the issues of neglect is to create a deep sense of reciprocity in our people. I know it may seem a bit strange, but we're going to uncover this a bit more. Reciprocity is the single greatest solution to the problem of both recruiting and retention. The end goal of employee engagement, in my opinion, is that we want to create a deep sense of reciprocity among every single one of our team members. If reciprocity then becomes the goal, we're going to have employees who are much more engaged. Now, we've heard this before, and I know that it's cliche. we can most certainly buy a hand, but a heart has to be won. Let me repeat. We can buy a hand, but we have to win a heart. And when you win a heart, that's when you create a deep sense of reciprocity. Now, how do you do that? I submit that the starting point, if we did nothing else, we want to make sure that we become very intentional about helping our people achieve their unique goals and dreams. And here's the kicker. We want to make sure we help them achieve their goals and dreams, even if, and especially if they have absolutely nothing to do with our businesses. If we can help people achieve their goals and dreams, when life starts lifing on us, when life starts lifing on them, they can see beyond what's right in front of them because they have a hope, they have a dream, they have something that makes their heart pant. Sorry, Darrell, this is not going to sound good on this microphone, me beating on my chest. Think about it. What is it that gets you up, springing you out of bed in the morning? What is it that's exciting that you have going on in your own life? Think about that. Our people are no different than us. For some of them, it wasn't necessarily their dream to work for our company. Why neglect that? Let's do what we can to make their hearts pant so that they begin to make the association between coming to this place of employment, your business, and their dreams being fulfilled. That's the starting point. Does that make sense? All right. So what I have coined to do just that, going beyond just goals and dreams, is the ACTS method. It is an unusually effective approach to employee engagement that maximizes reciprocity. ACTS is an acronym, and here's what it stands for. Aspirations, goals and dreams. We talked about that. That's the starting point. If you stop there, you would be way ahead of the game, but we're not going to stop there. C stands for calling. T stands for transformation, and S stands for support. Let's jump into it. To make this practical, to leave here today and apply this in your business, in order to help people achieve their greatest goals and dreams, their aspirations, you want to have one-on-one coaching designed to help your people do just that. Now, I say this not to be self-serving, and because this is the business that I'm in, I suggest you outsource that. Let me not say that. Let me amend my statement. It's going to be very challenging for you to do this internally, and this is for a number of reasons. First of all, many of your leaders may not have the capacity to, let's start with ability. Many of your leaders may not have the ability to help other people achieve their goals and dreams. They haven't been trained. That's not necessarily their strong suit. They may not be even be able to do that in their own lives. So that's one challenge. Another challenge is most of your people are probably at or beyond somewhat of their capacity. So it's really advisable for you to outsource bringing a third party in to help people achieve their goals and dreams. And here's the second, and I would even argue probably a greater benefit of using an outside company. There's going to be a greater level of trust that your people have and that they feel, and that they can be, when they can be more transparent about what's going on. Part of the reason that we're all here today is because there's certain things that we simply can't share with our people. Thank you for, again, your great vision to start the roundtable. So there are certain things people are just not going to be comfortable with. So it is with your employees. They're people just like us, right? So the A stands for helping people achieve their greatest goals and dreams. Outsource that so that on company time, a really important point, on company time, they can meet with their coach one-on-one at least once per month. And that right there is the beginning of really beginning to win the hearts of your people. C, calling. Again, on company time, we want to make sure that we have training designed to help our team members both discover and demonstrate what they are called to do. Remember the stat earlier, 42%. People who have a deep sense of purpose in calling, they are 42% more likely to be highly engaged and outperform their peers. So you want to have time. What time? Company time. Say it with me. Company time. On company time, you want to have training designed to help people discover and demonstrate what they have been uniquely created by God to do. T. The T stands for transformation. You want to provide, on what time? Say it with me. Company time. Training opportunities for your team members to learn the skills that makes them better in all areas of life, not just for the job that they have or the job that they're looking or aspiring to. You want people to begin to make the connection between when I come to this place, what makes my heart pant. My dreams are being fulfilled. When I come to here, I go home and I'm a much better leader. When I come to here, there's something that happens between the relationship with my spouse and I. This job is making me better. When your people can begin to associate your business with their lives being completely transformed in all of the areas that you see here, when I come to here, I'm a much better father. When I come to here, there's something that's boldly and uniquely different about any other opportunities that I've had. We're talking about winning a hand, we're talking about winning a heart, not just buying a hand. You can't just throw money at the challenges, right? Even if you are flush with capital, you're always going to find companies that have a greater war chest than you. It is not a sustainable strategy just to try to throw money at the issue. Support. This is really important. I'll never forget years and years ago when I started as an entrepreneur. I started at the age of 19. I was typically the youngest and the darkest person in most of the rooms that I was in. So I knew immediately that one of the things that I was going to need for a host of different reasons, but for the sake of credibility and to be taken seriously in many respects, I needed to get an attorney. So most places I wasn't rolling alone. I would have my attorney with me. I paid for just that, just a presence, just to be able to say, this is my attorney. And so I built a significant relationship out of respect. I will not mention his name. I built a significant relationship with my first attorney. He helped me close my very first deal. And the relationship was so great that even after he transitioned out of his law firm and went to a fast growing company to oversee the HR department, he called me up and said, Ian, I need you. He said, I know you're running your own company, but I am buried over here. And it's not just about me. I think because you're an entrepreneur, I'm on this rocket ship. And I think you will really benefit in your business by coming over here to see what's happening. So I went. The money was just a bonus. I really went there to support him just to say thank you because I had a deep sense of reciprocity because of how much of a blessing he was in my earlier days because he went above and beyond the call of duty. So I went and I did just that. I served him. The company grew well and I was also learning. The challenge is on one particular fateful day, I wish I were a better storyteller. I really want you guys to feel the emotion of it, but here goes. I don't even remember what the issue was that I was wrestling with, but it was a significant issue, a significant personal challenge that I had. Now, here's an important point to remember. My attorney happened to be a minister. I walked into his office on a particularly difficult day. Again, I don't remember the issue. And I said, I'm really struggling with this personal issue. Can we spend just 2 to 3 minutes? I'd love to be able to just get your perspective. I'm challenged. This is really tough. The man looked at me with a weird, somewhat uncomfortable silence that we're experiencing right now. He looked at me and said, I don't have my minister's hat on. I don't have time. I was crushed. Has anything ever happened, or has anyone ever said something to you that you were so stunned by you didn't really know how to react? It was one of those moments that I had. The nature of our relationship changed from then on. It wasn't, hey, I'm extremely swamped right now, but I want to be able to connect with you. Let's do lunch a little bit later on. I'm swamped right now. Let's do dinner. Can we set up a specific time? It was nothing of the sort. It just seemed cold and dismissive. So that's exactly when things changed. I wasn't rude. I wasn't mean. I wasn't disrespectful. But I transitioned out of the company much later. That is the exact thing that we do not want to do. The last letter is support. We want to create an environment where our people feel supported both personally and professionally, right? You do not want to have your people experience what I experienced. Now, I'm much older now, a bit more mature. I have no idea. He could have had a whole lot of life going on. Somebody could have just died. Like, anything could have happened. I didn't know that. All I know is that that's how I felt in the moment. And that's exactly the opposite of what we want our people to feel. So if you apply the ACTS method in your business, then your issue with retention is going to go away, along with really coming to grips with the exciting fact that the greatest army that you have to recruit in your greatest recruiting tool is going to be the people who are sold out, the stark raving fans that are your employees whose lives you have transformed. So the single greatest tool you're going to have to recruit, it's not going to be the wonderful bells and whistles that you can find. It's not going to be the use of technology. Yes, technology is an aid. It's not an end all and be all. The single greatest tool you're going to find is that your people are going to be spreading the word. So whenever there's an opportunity that exists, not for all opportunities, but the vast majority of your opportunities, they're going to have people beating down your door so that they can get their family and their friends and their friends of friends and their family of family. The biggest challenge you're going to run into is not the money you're spending to recruit and not necessarily getting the results that you want. It's going to be, how do I get the capacity that I need to screen through all of the people who are beating down my doorstep? I've seen it over and over again. There are companies that they don't have to do a whole lot of exterior recruiting. They simply let their people know that we have an opportunity, and they're flooded with people who are trying to get their foot in the door, right? All right, so here's what we covered. The big problem with turnover. People are aiming at the wrong thing. And if you do, you're not going to hit your target. The real cause of turnover is neglecting our people. What's the one-word solution? It starts with an R. You guys remember it? Reciprocity. There's always one in the crowd. Your greatest talent recruiting tool is going to be your people, and you apply this in your business, I hope, by using the ACTS method. Now, I'm going to give you guys just 2 minutes. Please pull out your cell phone. Please tell me how badly you hated this presentation. I'll give you 2 minutes to do so, and at the very end, I want to make sure you guys have the slides, and then I'll share a final point, and then we'll transition into a time of Q&A. Okay, you guys, please continue. Please continue filling that out if you're not done yet. But I want to make the best use of time. So I'll just share one final point before we open up the floor for questions. This is always a bit tough for me because it's easy for me to get emotional when I talk about it. There have been 2 people that God has used to be absolutely transformative in my life. The first person is my Uncle Kelvin. When I was younger, I mentioned to you guys that I grew up and my father was in prison. But I didn't feel any sense of lack at all because my uncle was there. My uncle, to me, was the epitome of everything I wanted to be. The reason that pretty much the only cars that I buy, with a recent exception, are Lexus cars is because my uncle bought Lexus cars. My uncle was the life of the party. He was kind. He was patient. Whenever he would go to the mall, he would come and get me and always buy me stuff. My entrepreneurial journey actually began because my uncle taught me how to buy and sell candy, and then he taught me how to cut hair. Actually, when I was younger, I used to attend barber college with my uncle. He was hilarious. Sometimes I would be sitting with him and learning the craft of barbering while he's teaching me life lessons and cracking jokes, sometimes so much until I cried. God used him in such a way. He stepped in at such a critical moment, but that I did not feel any sense of lack. I understood to a huge extent at a young age what it meant to be a man because of his example. That's the first person. Second person, when I was older, is Pastor Christopher Brooks. At the time, he was at Evangel Ministries. Now he is the senior pastor of Woodside Bible. The home campus is in Troy. They have 14. I'm a part of Woodside. We have 14 campuses. Pastor Chris came in during a time that there was a hole in my heart. I mentioned to you earlier that I used to think that money was the end all and be all to my problems. There's a God-sized hole that we all have, and unfortunately, much to our own peril, we try to fill it. Some of us who are more naive, we try to fill it with everything but him, and I tried just that. I tried to fill it with money. I tried to fill it with success. I tried to fill it with things and trips. I tried to fill it with women. None of it worked. So it was at a time that I was completely broken that he stepped in. I was saved at a young age. Jesus became Lord because Pastor Chris labored with me until Christ was formed in me. He discipled me. He challenged me theologically. You guys may not know this about my personality, but it's a little bit intense. Some people have said. I asked I know I wore that man completely out, but God gave him a special grace to be able to deal with my hurts, know where my insecurities lie, and still labor with me. When I think about both my Uncle Kelvin and I think about Pastor Chris, I do so with great affection. Not that they were perfect. All of us are sinners saved by God's grace, but they were perfect for me at the time that I needed them. So I'm so grateful when I think about them, and I get so emotional because they were such a blessing to me. And there's absolutely, consequently, as a result of how much of a blessing they were to me, nothing that I wouldn't try to do to be a blessing to them. That's a deep sense of reciprocity that has been created because they were such a blessing. Think about, not just me, think about those people in your own lives who came in at critical points, people who encouraged you in your journey. When the bottom had fallen out and you had fallen on your face and maybe your esteem was in the toilet and maybe you didn't know how you were going to make it, but that person God used to step in, or persons. Think about what you would do for them because of what they meant or what they mean to you. Now imagine if you had an entire company filled with people who had that type of deep affection for you because of the transformative impact that you've had on their lives. That's what we're looking to create. That's what I'm hoping will be the result of the ACTS method. Amen? All right, let's give yourselves and give the Lord a hand clap of praise. A little bit louder, not for me, for him. Okay, we now have just under 18 minutes. If there are any questions, I'd like to open the floor up. Any questions at all? Don't everyone jump at once. Yes, ma'am. I didn't do it. No, just joking. Just joking.
You said for emotional health needs, with the return on investment, you mentioned something about like enough sick time to cover people's needs, that kind of thing. Do you ever, have you found an optimal number that has been most effective in your team?
I have not. I'm sure that there are probably some longitudinal studies that could give you a better answer than I could. But I think the greater issue is, and this is tough, there's a balancing act that we have to play. Our resources are not infinite. They're finite, right? So we need people who are doing the job. So while we're trying to be sensitive to the needs of our people, we also need to be able to get the work done so that we can grow. So by no means am I saying this is an easy task. So I don't have that exact stat, but I will say that if we spend more time and we have concerted efforts working with people, not necessarily as just a part of the collective, but as individuals, I think we do so and we'll experience a great return on investment. So I wish I had a specific stat or of what the potential magic or median number or time frame may be. But the reality is life has a way of lifing on all of us, and we don't know how we're going to respond until it actually happens. That's the tough thing. But I will say this. As it pertains to mental and emotional health, if we can help people think better, right? If we can help people to frame things appropriately, it's not what happens to us, it's the stories that we tell ourselves that drives the emotions. So if we can not just have some efforts that are focused on, let's just make you feel better. Let's get to the underlying cause of what's going on. How we think is what impacts how we feel, and how we feel is what impacts what we do. So if we can take a step back and begin to address the mental needs that our people have, the psychological needs, if we can help people frame things the right way. So think about this for just a moment. Here's a great personal example of how important framing is in helping people to think the right way. One of the final frontiers of maturity for me was learning how not to go from 1 to 10 when I was driving and people did something dangerous that would kill me or my family. Now, if it's me, I normally wouldn't go from 1 to 10. Now I'm not waving any guns out of any windows, though a few times, admittedly, delete this, Darrell, I thought about it. I wasn't going to shoot anybody, but I just wanted to brandish a weapon. I'm so glad my wife is, I get myself in trouble every time. I'm not going to let her see this video. It's going to be a problem. Every time. Darrell, I need your help with that too. So I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. I cannot control what just happened, right? Yes, it was dangerous, and yes, it could have killed me, But I've learned to tell myself better stories. Some would go as far to say better lies. You don't know if it's a lie. Let's use the word story. The story that I used to have that would trigger me, it wasn't the event, it was what I quickly processed and the meaning behind the event. The reality is the event was I could have gotten killed. But the story used to be this such and such, this idiot, if you want to kill yourself, do it on your own time. If you have a death wish, that's fine. But don't kill me, don't kill my family. This is instantly what triggered me, right? This is intentional. I'm like, all right, I need to do better. I need to be better. So now when that happens, and I've gotten really, really good at it, right? Now when that happens, the story that I tell myself is, oh my God, I hope this is not a trigger. I don't say this to be insensitive, but this is honest. There's a serial rapist in the area, and this man's daughter just called. He's afraid that the cops won't get there in time. He's just trying to get home. Now, the event didn't change. The maneuver, whatever that maneuver was, could have killed both he and I. Or my family, right? Or another story is, oh my God, they have a dying family member. They're probably trying to get to the hospital. Now, I am in complete control of the story that I tell myself about the event. That's one of the skills when we help people, when we deal with the mental needs that our people have, that's one of the skills that's really helpful. One story had me ticked off wanting to brandish a weapon that I've never done. The other one had me deeply grateful that I don't have whatever issue that person has, and that we didn't get into the accident, and I'm even prayerful. So just helping people, doing that type of training, it makes a difference. It is simple, but it's not easy. But when people get it, their lives can be transformed, and they'll be much more healthy emotionally. It's the emotions that are killing us. It's the emotions that's wearing out our nervous system, that keeps us in fight or flight, that keeps our sympathetic nervous system always triggered. It's not healthy at all. Sorry, that was much more than what you anticipated, but I thought it might be helpful. All right, another question. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Most other people have questions. A follow-up on that question is, can you give me examples of if you are, you're saying individual, looking at certain, people within your team.
Yep.
And you're looking at their mental and emotional needs. What are some examples of how you meet individual needs? Like, maybe it's a dad who has a newborn at home and is really tired, or a younger girl who has anxiety, or like how do you actually meet their emotional needs?
Sure.
Also having the workload expectation.
You have to be a great facilitator, right? So if you outsource the one-on-one coaching, the reason that many companies have employee assistance programs, but the reason that the impact of those programs is so low is because people typically don't trust them. But if you have a trusted coach, this person who sees you on a regular basis, who's helping you to achieve your goals and dreams, you build a certain level of trust, right? So there are people in all of our lives where we are wise counsel. So it's going to be much better that I say, hey, you probably want to talk to the therapist in this EAP program versus HR telling you, because you're going to be concerned. For most environments and most cultures, most people are just not going to be comfortable going to HR. So I'm not saying that you turn into a therapist. That is reckless, dangerous. You can run into a whole set of issues. But if you have a coach that has been working with your people, your coach is going to make that recommendation. Hey, get some therapy, get some counseling in this area. And if there's some additional resources, you want to be a pilot. You don't have to do everything, but you want to help people get to the destination that they're traveling to. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Would you ever adjust certain benefits and things for people in that light? If there is you're saying the coach is the answer, or you're saying is there certain benefits that you would adjust based on needs?
It's going to be tough for you to adjust it depends on what you mean by the word benefits, right? So from a legal perspective,
Time or work from home, or
you can give as much flexibility as the law will permit. So you're going to have to talk to an attorney. You're going to have to talk to an HR consultant to find out what can you do. I think the greater point is that what is your posture? If your posture is to do all that you can, if this person produces great work and they're valuable, they should feel valuable, and there should be flexibility. Now, you still have standards. You still have to make sure that, again, the work gets done. So there is a balancing act, and sometimes transition may be the best bet for that person's own benefit, because if they can't meet the standards of the job, that's going to keep them in a constant cycle of not feeling good either. And if this is not the right fit, somewhere else probably is. So you do as much as you can, you offer as much flexibility as you can, but you still have to hit the goals. So the standards don't change, right? You still have to hit the goals. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah. All right. There was a question. Yes, sir.
I understand what reciprocity means, and lots of words have like multiple definitions and shades of difference. I might have missed it, but can you have like a working definition of reciprocity?
Yes. Let's go back. This is going much more slowly than what I thought. This is not what I had in mind. This is oh God. Oh my goodness. Oh, maybe I didn't define it. So I just went through that entire exercise for nothing. Probably, and I'm sure I'm going to want to amend this, but creating a deep desire in someone else to be a blessing to you. I think where you've captured somebody else's heart, where they're now looking to do all that they can to be a blessing. So I don't just want to do my job. I just want to do it with excellence. You've helped me achieve my goal. I want to help you achieve your goal. So there's a zeal, there's an enthusiasm that someone feels when they think about the deep affection that they have for you, and that deep affection is what drives them wanting to do more and be more so that they can be a blessing and just to show their thanks and their gratitude. Does that help? Yeah. So I will make sure I add that to the next slide. And since I've been blaming everything on Teresa, that's Teresa's fault too. We've got about seven more minutes. Okay, good. Any additional questions? Yes, ma'am.
So Gen Z, seeing a lot of, I need to move up, be promoted every year. I need 10% increase in pay. I need 10% increase in benefits. How do you apply this to that generation, that mindset, and continue to keep them engaged and not constantly expecting more than what they're ready for?
Yeah, I really appreciate the question. By chance, have you guys, any of you heard of the book, and she used a word that's so important. Have you heard of the book Mindset? It's by Carol Dweck, Stanford professor. Mindset is so important, and it is difficult. It requires an extra amount of patience. But the beautiful thing about mindsets is that they can be shifted. So it's a leadership development issue. The core concepts don't change, but the amount of time that you may have to invest with your people would. And you don't have to do that alone. That's a part of why you're going to have your coach. Because, I think about the Beatitudes. I think about, you've heard it said, but I say. You've heard it said, but I say. We constantly have to challenge the immature and the inaccurate thinking of our people. And it may take longer for some generations than others, but I think that's a leadership development issue, constantly retraining and making sure we can appropriately frame the thinking of our people. But their core needs, because we're all people, because psychology does not change much, yes, there are cultural norms, and it's harder based upon what is constantly being reinforced. It's harder to do, but the mandate doesn't change. Even when I think about scripture, for example, it doesn't really matter what the culture is saying. Scripture and what it means to be mature and how we should frame our thinking, that doesn't change. So it just requires leadership, constantly challenging people, but that requires relationship, right? When you challenge people without relationship, you run into sour grapes in many cases, right? You can gain conformity for a short period of time, but the best way to be able to get people to change long-term is that they want to change. Nobody likes change other than babies with wet diapers, right? So we have to make sure that we are just cognizant of the fact that most people don't like to be told what to do. So we have to be really strategic in how we approach. But the reality is there needs to be this regeneration of their thinking. So it takes longer, requires more patience, but that's a leadership development issue. Thanks for that question. What other questions, you guys? We have just under 5 minutes.
So the stats are great. The return on investment is great.
Yes.
So what gets in the way of an employer or business doing this? What's the constraint that is the news too good? What stops them from engaging with this methodology?
First, they don't know it. I've just codified this methodology. It took some time for me to understand what exactly was I doing, right? I was doing all of this, but I hadn't framed my thinking more clearly around it until more recently. I think so. Lack of exposure, that's one thing. Overwhelm is another, because many people have tried employee engagement programs, or they have these projects or initiatives. And the problem is many of them don't go very far because, again, the real underlying issue is they don't know what they're really aiming at. And if you don't know what you're aiming at and the real problem that you're trying to solve, it's going to be hard to just throw stuff and things at it. So many people are overwhelmed. Many people are embarrassed. Most people, it is safer to stay kind of in the messy middle, right? It requires courage for people to step out and say, I've never done this, but I believe that this is going to work. Something about this seems different. So part of it is me evangelizing the method. Another part is making sure that people are courageous enough to do it, because it is safe to not do the very thing that you've gotten stung doing before when it didn't work. I've invested all of this time, I've invested all of this money, and I didn't necessarily see the return on investment because my turnover is still 30%. So there are other reasons, but I believe fear is one of the big ones. And most people simply don't want to try more things that have already failed, and I think overwhelm is another. So I'm sure there are more, but those are things that just come to mind off the top of my head. All right, we got 3 more minutes. Any additional questions? Have I exhausted you guys sufficiently? Oh, no, I haven't. One more, lucky winner.
I just have a basic one. When you talk about coaching, do you have to have multiple coach options for people's personality, or could you just have one company or coach that you go through and they are the same one for everyone?
Yeah, so the ratio that I'm operating under is 1 to 100. That's max. So the idea is for every 100 employees maximum, it's 1 coach. And so that's 25 appointments per week. So yes, there are different fits, even in therapy, right? Some people are just not as good a fit. You don't have an affinity, you don't have the connection. And if that's the case, then your people may switch and work with another coach. There isn't necessarily a one size fits all. But the idea is the ratio is 1 to 100, ideally maybe 1 to 80 employees for a coach. And if for whatever reason, the way the tone of the coach's voice is a trigger for something that happened way back when I was a kid, doesn't really make a difference. Whatever the issue is, if it's a challenge, then that employee can switch coaches. So sometimes I think that's appropriate. All right, time for one more question. All right, well, let's give yourselves and give the Lord another hand clap of praise. Thank you, thank you, thank you.